Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dante Ang II, the President and CEO of the Manila Times. We're fortunate to have this morning Mr. George Chesakov, Chairman of the Board of Tinkoff Bank of Russia. With him is Mr. Artem Lebedev, who is the Vice President for Communication, also of Tinkoff Bank. Good afternoon, Mr. Chesakov. Could you please tell us what brings you to the Philippines? We understand that Tinkoff Bank is one of the fastest growing banks in Russia, but I heard from an interview of Mr. Oleg Tinkoff that one of the reasons for your success is that you focus on your home country. But now apparently you're looking at investing in countries like the Philippines. So maybe we can start what brings you to Manila.
Yeah, so coming back to the Philippines, I think that's great market per se, independent of any other type of international ideas that we might have. It's a huge population, 110 million people, and growing fast. Russia is 140 something, but it's declining. So maybe in 15, 20 years, actually will be the same in terms of population. Second, the population is young, which means a lot of those young people will become adults, and they will use banking services.
I noticed that I guess in Russia, one of the things that made you different was you developed an app or services specifically for young people. Is that something that you're looking at for the Philippine market as well?
Well, actually, it's interesting. It wasn't specifically for young people.
Oh, okay.
But well, it was developed by young people first of so our median age in the headquarters is 25 years. So
very, very young.
Banking, yeah, we've got a bunch of old types like myself, but the whole majority of our employees is young. So another thing that we're one of the pioneers of developing a full-fledged mobile application for a bank when it was still a novelty. Now you cannot imagine a bank without a mobile application, and we were one of the first who had one. So, and as any novelty, it caters more. As any technological novelty, yeah, it caters more and firstly to younger generation because they're more adept with some computing and stuff. So that was how we were perceived for the young guys, and actually really young people loved us. So our penetration among the younger part of population is much higher than among the older part of the population. But we are now trying to move into other segments as well, including more conservative, sometimes older, so that they can be used by older people as well. Bigger fonts, you know, easier to navigate, etc., etc. But it was not developed specifically for the youngsters. So it's a byproduct of us being technological and the younger generation loving technology. So coming back again to the Philippines. So another thing is that there's a huge number of unbanked customers, and I believe they will become increasingly banked. The reason why they're not banked as yet, because the technology didn't allow. So basically, you have to go to a branch, all the kind of present a lot of documents to be able to do something. You can actually serve this remote pockets of population without incurring too much risk. But you need to understand how to utilize this technology. So non-traditional credit data sources, etc. So I think we're on the brink of this kind of banking revolution, and some markets, and perhaps Philippines is one. So now they have tens of millions of subscribers. And that all happened within the last couple of years, the last 18 months. We also met with one of the delivery services here, and they had hundreds of orders per day pre-pandemic. Now they've got 25,000 orders per day.
Wow.
Physically, with a customer,
That's
sign a paper contract with that signature when we meet them first time. But the first time you need to see physically to compare the documents to get the physical signature. So we utilize like 11,000 agents, we call them smart couriers, who deliver cards, deliver our products, sign this contracts doing the physical KYC to the tune of what 1.5 million meetings a month now. So it's a huge distribution service across whole Russia. Here you can do it a bit lighter because you've got digital KYC. So the regulation is advancing, is already in many ways advanced. And last but not least, foreign players in banking industry are welcome. So to summarize, the economy is growing. From our experience so far, the regulator is accessible. You can build a dialogue, that's very important. We engage in a lot of dialogue with our regulators in Russia. So I think that's a very good thing to do, that you can actually discuss things and explain what you're doing or ask questions, especially in a new market where we don't know that much about. So we submitted the digital banking license application in late August, and we're waiting for some kind of outcome. In the meantime, we're meeting local partners, mostly digitally, while sometimes with the due precautions. It can be visits, but basically we're trying to not to lose time and build our platform in parallel. We've got a lot of people in Moscow working on building the platform. So if things go well, license-wise, we'd be ready to launch early next year. While if the license is delayed, we'll see what else we can do to be able to execute on our commitment to the Philippines.
Your founder, Mr. Oleg Tinkoff, is a very interesting guy. I saw some interviews that he did. He said he didn't like, or he tend to hire people with no banking experience. And then second, he said that the branches in Russia will become Starbucks branches because nobody will go to a bank branch anymore. That was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Is that happening in Russia now? And do you think that trend will also be happening here in the Philippines and elsewhere?
Well, from what I know, Starbucks is in every corner in Manila. So maybe it's already happened.
Okay.
But in Russia, well, actually, Starbucks is not that popular. There are a few local coffee chains that get in more traction. So what happens, with the banks? Well, we haven't had a branch since our inception. So we managed to both acquire customers, serve them, entertain them even through remote channels or through branchless channels. We do have partnerships though with some offline retailers, for example, in point of sale lending, and sometimes as card acquisition. So we're utilizing sometimes offline channel for the acquisition, but we service everybody completely remotely. We don't need a branch for that. So whether there are customers that actually love branches remains to be seen. But my prognosis that the number of branches will be going down.
Are you talking to any Philippine bank? I think I'm not an expert, but I think Union Bank is probably the one that is pursuing the most digital strategy. But are you in touch with any of our local financial institutions for possible partnership, or do you think Tinkoff will do it alone for now in the Philippines?
Well, I think banking is a complicated industry. It's both partnership and competition. For example, and you can actually compete in one segment and partner in another segment. So
I see.
For example, in Russia, we created point of sale. We created a broker for point of sale lending. So as we were engaging in developing our point of sale lending business, and that situation where a person comes to a retail store and wants to buy a fridge, and he gets a fridge, and then he pays the bank in equal installments for several months. So that's called point of sale loan, because the loan is administered at the point of sale. So what happened, we partnered with a huge number of retailers, and then these retailers would like to see better approval rates on their loan, on the purchases. So better approval rates come when there are more banks. So I created the point of sale broker. And we partnered with some banks who otherwise our competitors in the space, so that they can issue their originate their point of sale loans through our broker. And it's everybody's benefit. I mean, obviously we need to be transparent so that we don't do anything detrimental as we own the broker. Once we prove to them that the transparency is there and the rules are the same, they start trusting the system, they start originating the loans. So that's kind of partnership. Or we buy bonds of other banks. We sell our own bonds also to other banks. We move money between the banks. There is a fintech association in Russia. There are credit bureaus. There are many things where we partner, but we still compete in acquiring or serving the customers. So banking is a very complicated game. You cannot be just a competitor, then you will die immediately. You need to partner in the right places, but you still need to be able to compete on some other places. So I think I'm in the development of the legislation. So there are many ways how to develop the legislation, and banking is a regulated industry, and there is a lot of legislation coming and going on. So if you don't talk with other banks, don't talk with the regulator, don't talk with the lawmakers, then this legislation might be really cumbersome. So you need this dialogue in the industry. So that's kind of dialogue as one. It's an open dialogue and forums with the regulators, with central bank lawmakers. But then the banks engage, but they need to build some kind of common understanding. Obviously, they've got competing interests, but through this dialogue, the better legislation is born for the benefit of everybody, consumer and the banks. So there are many ways we can partner, and we'll be very open to get more acquainted with, more familiar with local banking scene and how we can contribute in a positive way.
May I ask Mr. Artem just a question before I turn over to my colleagues? Mr. Artem, you're Vice President for Communication. So what is the image of Tinkoff that you would like to portray here in the Philippines? Or maybe you can tell us, but first, what is the image of Tinkoff in Russia, and then how every country, of course, is different, right? So I'm sure you have an idea of how to portray Tinkoff to the Southeast Asian market. But maybe let's start off with what is the image of Tinkoff in Russia, and how would you like to have people think about Tinkoff here in the Philippines?
Thank you for the question. It's quite a wise shot. So actually, Tinkoff is, as George already said, it's about technology, it's about customer, and it's about product. So when we're saying about technology, it's now in 2021, we can easily talk about branchless, we can easily talk about delivery, etc., etc. If you come back 15 years ago, there was no deliveries except you order today and you receive in a week. There was no food delivery. There was no digital taxi. I mean, in application, you just press the button and you get the taxi in 10 minutes. And the same thing was in the banking sector. So there were branches only. So if you want to make something with your bank account or whatever, you just go to the branch, or maybe there were some old school PC, it's not applications, I don't know how to
web-based.
Web, yes. So Tinkoff actually made in Russia all this digital revolution in finance, in the finance market. I mean the whole finance market, because actually we continued with the with our brokerage business, and right at the moment we are the first biggest broker, retail broker on the market. So second one is the product which meets the needs of the customers. We are not trying to sell something that customer actually doesn't need. We deeply investigate what the customer wants from the product, and we go directly with this. And the third one is it's our we are client centric. So we are well known in Russia as the very client oriented organization. So this is actually three things which are very simple, but very hard to compare in one unit. So we are lucky that our team can execute this in the proper way.
Thank you, Mr. Artem.
May I just
Yes,
one
Mr.
thing? May I just one thing to what Artem just said?
Of course.
I think part of that, this, as I said, Artem is who we are. We're client-centric, digital technology driven, etc. But how can we about how best to portray us? But actually, part of the thing is that I think we're quite humble in a way. So we understand that the market is different. Well, we see a lot of parallels between the Philippines and Russia, and we believe that there is a huge trove of experience that we can draw upon. But we still understand that this is a very different country, different consumers, different type of economics, different type of employment practice, etc., etc. So we need to adapt. And then that, I mean, maybe very different types of business relationship, as you ask about the competing or partnering with the banks. So maybe we see it one way in Russia, and here it might be very different. So we actually eager to learn and adapt. And that's part of the reason why we're so successful in Russia. From one product to another, from one industry to another, we utilized on our previous experience, but we learned and adapted, and we built partnerships. In some industries, you don't need partnerships. Well, in some industries, in credit cards, you can do it directly, like Capital One did, or through online channels. In point of sale lending, you need partnerships. In brokerage, with basically there are many players, the bourses, exchanges, sort of very huge technology stock, a very huge technology stack. So you need to be able to build partnerships. We learn to build partnerships in many different industries and segments. So And that's the attitude that we're coming to the Philippines. We don't have a know-it-all attitude. We're happy to learn. We know we can bring a lot of value, but also we need to embark on a long journey. And this journey can take many years, and we're happy to sort of follow the path along with the market and learn, adapt, and sort of try to build here something of lasting value.
May I ask our senior reporter, Ms. May Calaballo, to ask some questions. Okay, May, your question, please.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon. My question is for Mr. George. Good
Hello.
afternoon, sir.
Good
I
afternoon.
just want to go back to the topic regarding your application for digital banking here in the Philippines. Is there any indication from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas as to the status of your application?
Well, I guess when there is an indication, we'll know either positive or negative. So far, my impression, they are processing. It's a huge load. There was 9 applications, as was reported, within the week of the deadline. So I imagine it's a huge load and takes quite some time to process a lot of information. So we just patient.
Sir, since the BSP already limited the number of digital banks that can operate here in the country to only 7, how confident are you that Tinkoff will come as 6 or 7 digital bank view?
Well, you know, we're not in the business of making forecasts. We work basically with what is given. So we believe in our strengths. I think we're one of the best contestants for this kind of license worldwide, not only in the Philippines, due to our experience, size, and technological prowess. But there might be many more considerations, and sort of, I mean, it's up to the regulator to decide who is the best. So we're just patient.
Professor George, what do you think, maybe same question, but what do you think makes Tinkoff different from the other digital banks? What is if you can summarize maybe in just a few points, what sets you apart from other digital banks?
Sir, speaking, sir, related question, sir.
Yeah.
I just want to know what products or services that Tinkoff can offer to the Philippine market that other digital banks here hasn't offered yet.
So what are you able to give that others aren't able to, or can you do better?
I think, there are two questions. What separates us? Well, I'm not sure. I cannot speak for all the digital banks. So what I believe is important about us is that we have long history. We're a bank, unlike many other startups. We used to be a startup, but now we're a large, successful bank. But we're not the bank with legacy systems or legacy processes. We're born digital in a way. And so we have this digital DNA, test and learn approach. We're more a tech company with a banking license, making money on financial products. Well, Google is a tech company. Well, let's not mention any names. So there are tech companies which make money on advertising, and there are many such tech companies. We're a tech company making money in the financial space and keeping our customers happy. So long track record. Though it's one country, but it's not one of the easiest countries in the world, which has undergone a huge transformation over the last 15 years, and we're part of this transformation, and in many ways instigated the transformation. We have huge stack of our own proprietary developed technology. We have a lot of processes. We know how to fight fraud. We know how to keep customers happy. We know how to underwrite credit risk in different segments across different geographies, multiple industries, from high credit score to low credit score. We know how to manage risk. I think we turned profitable sometime in 2009 or 10, I forgot. Since then, we had only one negative quarter, no negative year, despite the several crises that hit Russia, which means that we know how to manage our capital, our ratios. So we're not only a bunch of, software developers run amok. No, we are actually a very robust financial institution with robust processes. And that is reflected in our stock price over the recent years. So we're not bringing only promises, we're bringing a lot of experience and past track record. Now to the product question. Well, in a way, all products in financial industry are centuries old. So, I mean, payments, well, the Banco di Medici in the Middle Ages was doing payments between Middle East and Europe. Loans, keeping money safe. That's what banking was about since its inception. So in that respect, on the surface, all products looks the same. Yes, we're going to offer credit card. Yes, we're going to offer a debit card or a current account. The difference is not in the product itself. The difference is beyond. One thing is through technology, credit risk management, etc., we believe we can access a wider segment of the population here. Introduce banking services to people who are not yet banked or semi-banked. We can offer lending to people who currently either denied credit or get their credit from informal sources. I believe we can reach customers who save money under their mattress and convince them to save money in the banking industry. But that's not only about technology and processes, that's also about customer service. As Artem mentioned, we're well renowned, and it's not only our impressions as happy top managers. No, there were multiple reviews, there were multiple independent studies of customer satisfaction. There is a public website which tracks customer satisfaction of different banks. So we've been leaders or number 2 for many years. And basically, we've got the best customer satisfaction of all the banks which are large by number of clients. That is actually hugely difficult enterprise to keep your customer service great when you scale to millions of customers, dozens of products, tens of thousands of call center operators, many of whom are young, sitting across whole Russia in their homes doing this telephone or chat service. It's really difficult, and it requires a lot of technology, a lot of analytics, a lot of management attention. And unlike many companies who say that's they're customer focused in their mission statement, but then fail to discuss customer service anywhere at the top. We actually do discuss customer service pretty much every time we meet as a top management, and it's permeated through the whole organization. So here we will build customer service locally. Well, the Philippines is the #1 in the world for business process outsourcing. So we'll be happy to build upon that, upon that solid foundation of people and processes that already existent, but add our own touch and our own focus on great customer experience. And I think this is really important if you want to move people from, under the mattress into the banking system. They need to trust your bank. They need to be able to speak, to talk, to get answers, to have their problems solved. That's very difficult. And that will be very difficult for us because we're coming from Russia, all in Russian language, Russian specific problems, etc. Here it's English, it's Tagalog, it's Cebuano, it's some other languages. It's Philippine specific problems, Philippine specific attitude. Still, our approach and technology and analytics will help, and our focus on customer experience will help, I believe, to build it to the right level so that the customers could trust us and move out of the shadows into the spotlight of the banking system. So I think that's what we can do here. Create more jobs, the jobs, local Philippine jobs that help local Philippine customers to move out of the shadows, out of the cash, into the sort of modern cashless society reliant on the banking system. And I think the more people move into the banking system, the more robust the banking system is. So it's good.
Just how many people are you looking to hire? Assuming that you're given a license, I suppose that's just for your general administration.
Well,
right?
let me put it another way. How many people do we have in Russia? We actually employ close to 50,000 people.
Wow. Okay.
So despite being digital,
You still,
I said we have 11,000 couriers, or smart couriers, our agents.
Oh yeah, I saw some of your commercials. The guy going to like the Arctic or something on a plane, on a horse. That's very interesting. So you serve the most remote areas in Russia, I think, right?
Well, obviously that commercial is a little bit of exaggeration,
Of
but
course. It's a funny commercial, but it's very interesting.
yeah, but it captures the essence.
I see.
So we've got more than 20,000 people serving our customers. We've got a huge number of anti-money laundering specialists, a huge number of people who, fraud prevention, transaction fraud prevention. We've got customer verification, and so for credit cards we do a lot of verification. So it's not exactly KYC in the legal, pretty close. So we do have a lot of KYC people.
Right.
That's a huge operation. So
right.
In the Philippines, I know depends on how fast we'll grow. And again, in Russia, it's all our own employees. Here, I mean, let's say it's a mecca of outsourcing. So by hiring, we can outsource. It still will create jobs, so not necessarily on our balance sheet. So, I mean, it can be thousands. Depends. It's on the size that we can achieve here.
Right. Lisa, do you have a question?
Sir Artem. Since 70% of Filipinos are unbanked, what kind of approach will you take to persuade Filipinos to engage in Tinkoff banking, financial banking?
So, okay, thank you, Lisa, for the question. I would maybe start, and then George will finish because he is more deep in the case. So there is a huge difference between the Russian market and the Philippine market, because here in Russia, people, I will roughly say, people are born with the banking account. it's actually you receive some money when you are in the university or in school. You receive some government payments, etc., etc. So the task here for Tinkoff was to change the paradigm of using the bank. So you can, of course, you can use your account with this government payments that you receive to the other bank, but you can also go digital, go to the bank that you choose yourself, and that is more with the product tailored for you, and not this old school bank with the branches, etc., etc. So here in Philippines, I guess there is quite a different situation, because people do not have access to the financial organizations due to landscape, due to maybe KYC problems, etc., etc. So this is quite a different story for us, but I'm sure that George can go deep and investigate it deeper, this thing, and can add something here.
Yes, let me add. Again, actually, I remember when I was a student, I was 90s. So I guess I had some dormant account with them, the largest state-owned bank, because my parents deposited there some kind of money which was totally eaten by inflation. So I didn't use it anyway. But I was doing everything in cash. But when I will become professional, it's cumbersome. So you start applying to, and you start moving into banking. And the banking was sort of not very convenient at the time. You had to go to this banking branch, stay there, like especially in Russia, when you can have like -30 Celsius degree in winter. And imagine 9 a.m. It's still dark, because in Russia in winter, it actually, it's only 4 hours of daylight. So 9 a.m., still dark, -20 degrees, and a line of people waiting for the bank branch to open so that they can pay their electricity bill or their utility bill, whatever. And it's kind of, this is so sad. I mean, why would people need to stay there in this winter? So now you don't need to do this. You just go log into the application. I got all my bills coming into my application, even traffic fines. So because we've got a lot of cameras in the city, so you got automatic traffic fines. You just log in and pay there. So no need to stay in a line, -20, etc. So part of your answer is, well, you build good technology, great customer UX, solve real problems. Maybe here it's not a problem. People don't stay in lines to pay their utility bills. But if there is so large population isn't banked, then definitely there is a problem. There is a pain point. So our job is to find these pain points and solve them. They might be different than what we encountered in Russia, but we'll find them, solve them, build good product. People will move. And some other players in the Philippines are already doing this. So the banking industry is not dormant. So it's developing, and they're doing exactly this. So that's part of the answer. Second part of the answer is that our debit product, for example, grows exponentially for many years, actually since its inception. So there was no single year when the base grew less than 50% year on year. So it's growing more than 50% for many years. Do we spend a lot of marketing money to achieve this? No, actually only 20% of this growth comes from marketing expense. The other 80 is referrals, recommendations. So people just love the way we work and recommend it to their friends. And that is most potent recommendation, but it's not translated over the TV channel, but it's made by your friend. So I think that's the answer for the whole banking industry, not only us. It's make great product. Early adopters will come, they experience it, they will talk to their friends. And as I understand, the Philippines is actually a much more social society than Russia is. Russia, especially in cities, and Russia is quite urban, it's atomized. Well, yeah, we do have we actually have three leading social networks: Facebook, Vkontakte, and Одноклассники, which can be translated as in contact and classmates. So three of them. So Russians are reasonably social, but from all the reports that I read, people here in the Philippines are the most avid users of social media in the world. So once you build great product, once people start trusting you, understand that you solve their problems, they will talk to others. So it's not a big bang approach to let's conquer the world and spend $1 zillion on TV. I think it's make sure that your customers recommend you or banking in general to their friends. And that will take some time, a lot of effort, a lot of resilience, because I believe we'll be making mistakes as everybody does. But history shows that we can learn from mistakes and adapt quickly. So hopefully this will happen here.
I have a follow-up question for Mr. George. Sir, assuming Tinkoff is granted a BSP license, can you share with us how much will Tinkoff invest in the Philippines?
Well, our model shows that we'll invest around $300 million in the next, I think, 5 years. But again, it depends on how fast we'll grow. So we have some modest growth scenario. If we're able to grow faster, we'll invest more sooner. And that includes both the capital required for the bank to be operational, so to have all the ratios correct, and investment in customer acquisition, customer service, etc., into operations. So, I mean, over the 10-year period, that will be much more, because I believe the growth is going to be like this. So it will be slow. The big part of the growth will happen in a few years' time, once we learn how to play this market, once the customer know about us. And once this shift happens, as the young generation becomes adult and they become using more and more customer service. So I think that's a kind of conservative estimate.
To Sir George, what are the different account securities that Tinkoff will be able to implement here in the Philippines if it will push through, sir?
So sorry, can you please say it again?
What are the different account securities that Tinkoff will be able to implement here in the Philippines?
What do you mean by account securities?
Account securities like other banking, digital banking, they have 3% interest for something, example for a product.
I think that's it's all in progress. So we'll see how customers react. So whether the market, as I said, will learn and adapt quickly. So I'm not prepared at the moment to discuss the tariffs. Let's get the license, build something. And
first things first. I have two last questions, if you don't mind, Mr. George. The first one is, we were seeing in the news the rise of cybersecurity issues, and Tinkoff being a digital bank, correct? So how concerned are you about cybersecurity in general, and then how do you assure, of course, your customers that their money is safe?
Well, actually, we very concerned about us. And in Russia, we do a lot. We have a very robust, modern cybersecurity organization, and it employs a lot of technology to stave off attacks against us, from denial of service to more complicated stuff. So that's very serious on our agenda. And with regard to what we're doing here in the Philippines, we already employed several. Well, we've got a chief information security officer specifically for the project here for Tinkoff Bank Philippines. And he employed some more people and is working in close concert with our broader information security organization. So, and we partner with a number of leading information security vendors in Russia and abroad. So we're doing a lot to this. Obviously, that's the huge concerns. That's actually number one. I mean, as I said, people, in order for you to build a business, people need to trust you. So, and I know it's not only about my address or phone number, it's about my money. So, I mean, it's much more than a typical organization would do about cybersecurity. Well, the banks are the forefront of fraudsters, etc. So it's a hugely serious issue, and it's not just words. We do, I believe, have a leading cybersecurity department in the industry in Russia, and we intend to be even more vigilant here in the Philippines as we move into another market, another country.
My last question about your founder, Oleg Tinkoff. We don't know very much about him. I know that he's one of the richest men in Russia. I don't know why he's rich. My understanding, he is an entrepreneur. So maybe you can introduce him to the Filipino public. And are there any other, big figures associated with Tinkoff Bank other than Oleg?
Well, maybe Artem will finish this question. I will just start. Well,
okay.
Oleg is rich because he is an entrepreneur. His story is completely transparent. He started importing electronics in the 90s or late 80s in Russia. Created his first business was electronics retail chain and music record studio. He sold them, built a frozen dumpling business. In Russian, it's called pelmeni. It's a mix between Chinese dumplings and Italian ravioli filled with meat. So he sold this business, built a chain of microbreweries called Tinkoff restaurants. Then he created a new from scratch called Tinkoff beer and sold it to Sun Interbrew in 2005 for something like 100 million plus. Don't remember the exact number. Euros. And then he used this money to set up Tinkoff Bank. And then Tinkoff Bank grew and has grown to its current size. So the Oleg story is completely transparent. And he was just from smaller to big enterprise to even bigger to Tinkoff. And he is a known philanthropist, and maybe Artem can add to that as well.
Yeah. Oleg is well known as Russian Richard Branson.
I was looking for that comparison. So he's like the Richard Branson of.
No, I mean it was the
I'm sorry, we're not. Yeah, we're familiar with Bill Gates and Elon Musk, and unfortunately, we don't hear as many of the other entrepreneurs from Russia.
No, he's a well-known entrepreneur in Russia and Europe, I would say.
Okay.
Maybe less known in Asia. And right now, so he's fully transparent, as George was saying. Right now, he's also holding a big charity project in Russia. So he set up a a fund with quite a big amount of money invested there to solve the cancer problems in Russia. And it's not about it's not only about supporting every guy with cancer. It's supporting the big changes in the medical approach, in the legislation, etc., etc. So it's quite a big project for him right now. Because the bank and all the Tinkoff group is quite so the business that does not need something a lot of tension from Oleg. So
yeah, so just like Branson, so many different. He's a conglomerate. He's in airlines. He's in.
No, actually, yeah. The Branson comparison is what comes to mind, but the difference is that Mr. Branson has, it's like, as I said, a conglomerate of different things. Like I think he started like 300 enterprises or something. Well, in that respect, Oleg is sequential, so he is focused on one business. So in a way that he's closer to Elon Musk, who started businesses. Well, now Musk has 2 or 3 businesses in parallel, but But Oleg has got it sequentially, and I think he pledged, his family pledged what, $300 million to this fund, and the fund is, as Artem said, legislation. Basically, the bone marrow transfusion or transplantation in Russia is difficult for a number of obscure legislative reasons. And we cannot, it's hard to do it across the borders, etc., which is needed if you want to have a bigger supply of the better matches for bone marrow transfusion. So that's what he is doing, is building the infrastructure. So the registry of bone marrow donors, the changes to the legislation, which simplify the process, etc., etc. So the idea is to build the infrastructure so that we can save, reverse the ratio of, so now it's said that 25% with acute, how it's called?
Bone marrow cancer?
Yeah, now with only like a quarter survives, and in Russia, as opposed to 3/4 in some other countries. So the goal is to flip the ratio, which will save thousands, not 10,000s of lives every year. So that's the idea.
Do you want to add anything? Maybe you want to mention something that we haven't asked, or give us some final thoughts?
Well, I believe I tried to explain who we are, why we're here, and what we can bring. And I truly believe our story is interesting. It's, I mean, it is really, well, as probably any story of any big, long-standing company. There were many crises. We survived them. We grown, transformed the number of industries in Russia in the financial area. Even in a mobile connectivity, despite we have a very small mobile operator, what we did was quickly caught up by the big operators, and they just trying to copycat us. We're very small. They're huge. They're trying to copycat to the benefit of industry and all the consumers. So I think, and I said we're very humble. We understand that it's a different country, different consumers, different pain points, but we're confident that we can find these pain points, that we have enough technology and capital and grit to be able to solve them and add something valuable both to the consumer here and the economy in general. And last but not least, I say that I don't believe we're a huge threat or competition to anybody. As I said, the market will be growing. The problem with the market growth is not, in my view, lack of demand.
Okay,
I think it's difficulty of building supply
I see.
because of the structural problems, unbankedness,
Right.
lack of central ID, lack of credit data, etc. This
Yes.
infrastructure is being created at the moment.
Mhm.
There's this government ID program. There are credit bureaus are getting better, plus there are more non-credit bureau data information, technology, etc. This all builds the necessary rails for the banking system to provide the supply. So the market will be huge.
Mhm.
And I think we're not fighting, it's not a zero-sum game, a winner-takes-all game. It's a game where we collectively develop a huge opportunity in this market. So I would say we will add more through our experience, technology, best practices, approaches, collaboration, as I delineated, we do with the banks and regulators in Russia. We will add more than we'll take through, capturing part of the market share, because the market itself will be growing.
Right.
And I think that's an important consideration.
It's very interesting. Well, Mr. George, Mr. Artem, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Please keep us in mind when there are developments. We'd certainly be interested in any announcements you may have in the future. And good luck. We hope to see you soon, perhaps in person next time you come to Manila when it's safer. My only regret is you're not getting to enjoy my country as much as you could because of COVID. But perhaps this will be the first of many visits to Manila.
Yes, I truly hope that our patience pays off, and then we'll be able to come here more often.
Okay.
Explore the country, not only personally and touristically, but also as a business which reaches to the farthest corners and islands.
Thank you very much.